Instead of focusing on winning arguments, we're teaching the basic fundamentals of sales and marketing and how we can use them to win in the world of politics, teaching you how to meet people where they're at on the issues they care about. Welcome to the Brian Nichols Show. Doing the right thing. That being said, on to the show. Mark Snyder here on the Brian Nichols Show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Hey folks, Brian Nichols here on the Brian Nichols Show. Thank you for joining us
on energy today.
And I want to say a fun-filled episode. It's not really a fun-filled episode. It's actually a little bit of a sad episode.
Saying, Brian, please, can we do an episode focusing on nuclear energy? I've had Alex Epstein on the program. He did his moral case for fossil fuels, where we actually looked at a little bit of nuclear energy. We talked about, I'm not sure if you're familiar, over on Netflix, Zac Efron did his down-to-earth series where he traveled all around the globe.
And don't let
his first stop was to
cyber attacks
forget
your company
the type
at
of
risk.
planet it was, but it was funny, we didn't even talk about nuclear in the episode, and Zac Efron's dad is a nuclear scientist.
Technology consultation today.
Alex
one more time,
that was a little weird omission in the conversation there, talking about alternative forms of energy. But yes, nuclear energy. I've heard this brought up time and again. Brian, you need to have somebody in the show to talk about the value of nuclear energy going forward, and really to show if people aren't really talking about it, they're not really serious in the conversation for renewable energy going forward. So with that being said, Mark, introduce yourself to the program, and what got you so fascinated that you wanted to talk about nuclear energy here on the program as well,
Remzo Martinez. Hey folks, happy Friday. Really quick, want to go ahead and give a shout out to one of our awesome sponsors not hearing from Brian Nichols Show, and that is Right Strategies. Now, whether you are someone who's looking to amplify your message where your voters are or where your customers are, don't worry, look no further. Right Strategies specializes in unique challenges of both running political campaigns and running a small business in the digital landscape. Information with a proven track record of helping clients win elections and grow their businesses using smart, strategic digital marketing. Today, Right Strategies is going to be the perfect partner to help you reach your goals. And they're awesome. What can I do? Experts are going to help you save time and money while helping you amplify your message to help win your elections and also win in the marketplace. Also, Right Strategies has this really great SMS texting feature, which will help you receive an efficient, affordable, and smart way to focus your marketing budget. By helping you reach thousands of voters and customers, Right Strategies is going to help you make a powerful impact on the outcome of your elections and your business growth. From social media management to expert graphic design work to marketing your product or campaign or even building your brand, Right Strategies can put together a plan that makes sense for your goals and do so with a budget that makes sense. In terms of trying to if you want to learn how Right Strategies can help you win his last episode that aired help you grow your business, head to briannicholsshow.com and guess what? You can get a free doing the right thing, political campaign or marketing plan when everything card
seems wrong
from Morgan and her team over at Right Strategies. Just do me a favor, make sure you let her know that I sent you. One more time, briannicholsshow.com/RS. Amplifying your message where voters and customers spend their time. And now back to our conversation with Mark Schneider
of the options that you're given.
So I spent 23 years
and I got the opportunity to join Gary on his amazing podcast back a while ago to talk about my personal story of losing 180 pounds.
And now it's just kind of a hobby.
Just being able to share that with Gary and to have that opportunity to feel that Gary was more than just a guest, and in that case, he was more than just a host, but he was someone who genuinely cared about my success and was proud of me. And I always want to make him proud. And I'm just really shocked and stunned to hear the news that Gary Collins passed. But
and so really
with that,
fun and
I wanted to at least use this as an opportunity to share some of the great things that he shared with us over the years.
And some of them are super
so please, for today's episode, I'm sorry I'm starting things out a Monday a little somber and sad, but I want to take a moment, share some laughs, share some memories,
and
more importantly, remember our good
March
friend
11th, 2020.
Gary Collins.
It's a 3-year licensing process.
Today, I am joined
Federal
by
regulation requires
Gary
a 3-year
Collins. Now,
time period.
Have you
It's
found that life
arbitrary,
is a
it
little
just
stressful, or maybe a little more
but
complicated than it needs to be?
It's going to run
or do you feel like you're on this treadmill of life,
fuel
going to
or nuclear
nowhere,
waste,
grinding in life each day and every day?
from
thinking,
EBR2,
there's something
which
wrong
was
with
a test
me
reactor
for feeling this way about
back
myself.
in
Well,
the 1960s
look
and
no
operated
further
in
than
the
today's
80s.
episode, as I'm joined by Gary, who is not only an Amazon best-selling author, a simple living advocate and educator, nutrition and health expert, adjunct college professor, and professional speaker, but most importantly, creator of The Simple Life. Gary spent almost a decade investigating our food, drug, and healthcare systems and has a unique perspective into what is making Americans obese, stressed, and overall just ill. Today, Gary joins the Brian Nichols Show to discuss his two best-selling books,
a version of a modular reactor that's a nuclear-powered submarine,
and to help others in pursuit of a better life. So listen as we discuss his background, his own venture to living off the grid and enjoying that simple life, and yes, his foolproof 3-step plan to personal success.
So we can do this, land-based size.
Gary Collins from Simple Life here on the Brian Nichols Show.
It's about 1,000 homes. I really appreciate it. And it fits on a quarter-acre lot. Quarter-acre lot's your standard lot of for a
show, Caleb Franz's
home, right? Just a standard suburban home is on about on a quarter acre.
To go and check out
but the big thing with nuclear energy is nuclear energy does not
from a podcast
CO2.
But also from the organization he's doing.
If you're concerned about carbon emissions,
a lot of great work. Also, make sure you go ahead and check out the episode when Caleb was on here to discuss the Liberty Initiative. But today, Gary, I'm having you on the show because I got the chance to listen to
nuclear energy produces, by the way, 20% of the power in the United States.
Did a really good job of getting a guest. I'm going to steal the guest. And I'm going to ask him some of my own questions because I was really engaged with your interview with Caleb, primarily because I see what you're doing in the Simple Life, which we'll obviously dig into more in depth in the interview. But I'm seeing this idea of kind of getting off the grid, getting rid of the excessive fluff in life, really, getting rid of that kind of stuff and focusing more on the stuff that truly matters. And actually about a month and a half or so ago, I had Tim Preuss from Straight No Chaser on my show, who really, that's what he's doing right now. He's going around America. He's meeting people all across the United States and asking them the fundamental question, well, what makes you happy? And it was a really exciting episode for me to talk to Tim to learn more about what he discovered. So I'll start off with you, Gary, kind of
San Diego, the Southern California area. And that's the year that the rolling blackouts began in California every summer. And then now we see right now that Governor Cuomo and the mayor of New York City are talking about how New Yorkers need to conserve their electricity in the summer because they're about to have to, or they're going to have to go into rolling blackouts. Well, literally, 2 months ago, they shut down Indian Point nuclear power generating station. So every time we see we shut down nuclear,
but for me,
you see the fact that renewables can't keep up,
I'll give you
so they have to
gritty. Grew up in a very small town,
basically rolling blackouts, so that they switch over to fossil.
Less than 1,800 people.
And in a lot of cases,
20 miles, 25 miles from that town.
When New York shut down Indian
First kid to graduate from college in my family.
Spiked by 35%
Parents didn't put any pressure on me. I excelled at athletics.
So that's one of those
did well in
crazy
school.
things when you look at it, that we know nuclear is carbon free, and we have evidence of it. And, so we know it can. And the big thing is getting to the future. But how do we go from these large-scale reactors that take a decade to build onto,
my little town to
how quickly can we build these when you get into modular construction?
Campus,
so probably the big
eye-opener experience.
Wow, that's a lot of notes to start off. So usually my paper I have here for my trusty notes when I'm going through and trying to recap episodes and stay up to date with what we're talking about is it's usually going to take about 25 minutes to fill a page. I think I have a full page right now in the first 5 minutes. So that's impressive because you're going through, and let's kind of start off here from how we approach things the program through the sales-based lens, right? Solutions-based selling particularly. And in this really way you've outlined what nuclear is and the impact that nuclear has already, and then showing the impact that we know nuclear can have. And you're starting to touch on a lot of, I say really number one, the number one objection I've seen about nuclear is the safety of nuclear, particularly in the waste of nuclear. Not only does this Aurora from Oklahoma run on nuclear waste, but it lasts for 20 years. That's
30 hours a week.
Fascinating. That's incredible that the technology is to the point now where one of the main objections that I remember hearing is now being resoundingly answered. So I would say, number one, that's a great way to overcome that objection. But let's be real, Mark. There's going to be folks out there who are going to be fighting tooth and nail against nuclear. So what are some of those common attacks that you hear from folks who say, no, nuclear is not the way to go? What's their argument?
Graduating, going into the private sector for a little bit, and then went in the military. And went in enlisted because I'm a rocket scientist. I'm really bright in that sense. considering I got accepted to the Naval Academy prep school, turned it down, and now I'm an E3 with a college degree, enlisted in the Navy. It was good, though. All these were good lessons. Ended up being a cryptologist, intel kind of field, and wanted to be a federal agent. Got my master's degree at night, so I was in the Navy and had many 36-hour straight days, couldn't see straight, going to school, worked really hard, got out, went in the private sector again, ended up finally getting a job. Back then, it took a long time. Nothing was automated. So when you turned in your application to the federal government, we used to call it right stack, wrong stack. You hoped you got in the right stack. And you hope that the person processing them that day wasn't really pissed off because they were known to shred applications. And I knew this firsthand once I got into the government, how hiring really worked. We used to call it it was just pure luck sometimes. It just right day, right place, right stack.
Right.
And took a couple years, ended up in the U.S. State Department Diplomatic Security Service, traveled all over the world, terrorist investigations, visa passport fraud, all kinds of good stuff. Worked on the border for a while. And then from there, ended up transferring in the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, then went to the Food and Drug Administration. So I went from more military traditional law enforcement to white collar. And it was just an eye-opener. I mean, I got to see so many different facets of how dysfunctional the government was, basically. Right. And so I ended up, lot of things had to happen, but I'd spent half my life working for the government by the time I left, between state, county, federal. Just burned out. I'd had enough, realized I wasn't making a difference, that I was easily replaceable. No one really cared. And, it kind of come to that point in your life. And a lot of us, I'm sure you've had numerous people on the government and talk to them. You always get to that point of going, are we doing any good?
Yep.
And it's hard for a guy like me, especially someone who's so patriotic and given so much to my country. And I believe in my country. It's a rough road, and we all kind of go through this weird transition in life of, what have I done? Did I actually do the right thing? And I don't mean I mean in a big sense, as far as life choices, the whole bit. Did I just waste half my life? And so I was pretty broken up, had a lot of injuries, had to go through multiple surgeries when I left. Sold my house for a massive loss. And had to basically restart my life. And I ended up selling most of my possessions. I had a house in San Diego. When I take a hit, I took a $250,000 hit. Cashed on, lost. And hard-earned cash. That was money I'd made. We called it blood money in the State Department when we did all the overtime and travel overseas and protection. And just a bummer, right?
Oh, it's a huge bummer.
The thing was, I came to that crossroads where a lot of people come to of, do I hold on to this and let it drag me down, or do I cut my losses and I've never been late on a bill in my life. What do I do? Right. But just reality. A friend had to sit me down and go, dude, suck your pride up and be done with it. You're being an idiot. And I go, you know what? You're right. I'm paying for this. And honestly, the bank really screwed me. I put 20% down. I remodeled the house. I did everything right. And I got caught in the housing bubble. And I asked for, a year, if you could give me a year to get back on my feet. Told them, hey, my health is an issue. They just said, sell your car and make your house payment. And I went, oh, that's how we're going to play it. And it was GMAC, go figure, finance, which is defunct now. And I had some colorful words for the lady, to say the least. And I went, all right, served my country, did everything. And your attitude is, well, let's squeeze some more blood out of this guy. Let's get the last drops we can. I went, no, we're not going to do it that way. And so I ended up just selling it. I short sold it, got rid of it, dumped it, and sold everything. Sold most of my belongings in about 48 hours on Craigslist. And just literally people came up with utility trailers and we filled it up. I said, make your best offer.
Wow.
If you want it, I'm selling it. Ceiling fans, sold my blinds to my neighbor. I sold everything. Everything I could without I didn't pull toilets out or anything stupid like that. But everything that you could sell, and is all stuff that I'd put into the house. I said, right, the bank's not getting it. even though they didn't. They ended up actually making money on my short sale. So technically it wasn't even a short sale.
No kidding.
So ironically, yeah, go figure. They got me on the front end and the back end. Perfect for them. And so I just started over. I moved into a rental out in the sticks a little bit in San Diego and reduced my debt or my monthly debt load by 2/3 and said, you know what? This American dream stuff ain't working out. I've done everything they told me to do. I've lived good. I've saved. I've scraped. And said, now for me, I'm going to do things on my own terms. And so I started a health business. And because I'd learned so much at the FDA and U.S. Department of Health and Human Services that I went, people are missing the boat. I mean, we're getting a lot of bad information. So, and I was always an athlete, health guy, and realized I was doing most of it wrong. And so kind of invented myself and then taught other people, got another degree in exercise science and started that. And basically was training high-end athletes, guys who were trying to get into major colleges. Had a kid go to Purdue, had a kid go to Kansas State, play football.
Any names we would know?
No, they one kid I think graduated last year. The other kid ended up transferring from Purdue. His dad, these were all pro football players where this came from. Gotcha. His dad was a professional football player.
I was going to say, we're waiting to hear you trained Aaron Donald or something like that for the Rams or what have you.
No luck. I played against Rashid Salam and some other people who made it in the NFL, but no one ended up famous, unfortunately for me. They were all good kids, though. Really smart kids, really had their act together. So football wasn't, they wanted to play, but it was one of those they would do just fine without it kind of thing. So I really enjoyed working with them and their parents and family. So I was doing that, working with private clients and stuff, wrote a couple books. A marketing guy said, hey, turn this into books, all this stuff you teach your clients. You've written it all down. You give them these handouts. So I did it, threw it out there, got picked up in the podcast circuit of all things. I wrote an article on God, this is getting long-winded, but I'll speed it up.
Please keep going.
And wrote an article in a podcast, Major Survivalist podcast, saw my rebuttal to this dumb article. And I said, no one would take this person on because they were afraid. And I went, no, you're being an idiot and I'm going to call you out on it. And so I did. I don't do that stuff anymore. Try not to. And he liked it. He picked it up and goes, says, hey, you have a lot of knowledge. We became friends. I ended up being the health guy, primal paleo health guy for this podcast. I still am to this day. This has been several years now. And, had me on as regular guest, was, have my own supplement line and just helping people the best way I knew how, chasing my passion. This whole time I'm becoming debt free, got rid of, downsized some more. Bought a small travel trailer to move into. Eventually, 4 years after this transit, moved into the travel trailer. Well, I had this dream of living more remotely, living in the mountains. Again, I grew up in the mountains. And I'd hatched this plan probably a decade prior. It started. And a friend got killed in a training accident. And I went, you know what? I'm done. I got to do this today. I've been putting this stuff off. So I went up into Washington. I'd been through Washington quite a bit, spent a lot of time up here, had a girlfriend up by where I live now, and fell in love with it and bought 20 acres. Found a great lot, cheap, paid $22,000 for 20 acres. It's on the top of a mountain. It's brutal. As far as, hard to get in, hard to get out.
Right.
It's 4-wheel drive in the summer, and I love it. So I went on this podcast today. He goes, what are you up to? I'm like, no, I just bought 20 acres. I'm going to build a house off the grid. I'm like, what?
Casual. Very casual.
Yeah. Well, it was a life choice. I wasn't planning on really telling anyone about it. I just wanted to do it. It was my personal life, and got a ton of emails. And I literally had just started the project. I just started building the road in on the backside of the mountain, and went, oh God, I think my next book idea is kind of here. And so I documented it, did some videos, wrote some blog posts. Just documented the whole thing, ended up publishing a book called Going Off the Grid. It took off, and not right away. It was a slow roller. I'm terrible at book launches. I actually had a book go live this morning.
Well, there you go. Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks. It had a couple snafus. They always do. But I'm a long-termer. I don't care too much about book launches. So I put it out there I self-published, did all this on my own. And like I said, it just kept picking up steam. and kept going and kept going. And finally a distributor found me and he goes, "Hey, we'd like to publish this book." I said, "No." And he goes, "Well, how about we distribute it?" And I go, "Okay, shoot me the contract." I almost actually deleted his email because I thought it was a quack. And we're good friends to this day, but that started this different journey. So everything in my life is kind of happened. I wouldn't say completely by luck, but what's that John Wooden famous quote of, luck is where practice and perseverance meet, something. I'm butchering.
Yeah. You're close enough.
Yeah. Big UCLA fan, John Wooden fan. I should know it. And so, it took off and I went, "Oh God, I'm a health guy. My website's health. Now this going off the grid thing, everything's getting a little confusing even to me." Well, what I realized is I was on a path of life simplification. I was returning to my roots. I was going back to the things that made me the happiest. And growing up, being poor, not having a whole lot. And you know what? We didn't know, and none of us knew we were really poor because we were all poor. When you're around a bunch of poor kids, you don't know it. You're just kids. You're just having a good time. There's some rough times. We a little hard here and there. But I have a saying, no matter how hard you have it, someone else has it a lot harder, so stop whining. And so, just kind of went, "Oh God, I better figure this out." And kind of was figuring out the direction of the business, but I was also building this house. And so I put the business on the back burner to get this house done. I was teaching, ran a health company, doing whatever I could to pay bills and get the money together. Because there's no financing in building a house off the grid for all those people
right.
out there who think you're going to go to your local bank and they're going to give you $300,000 to go build a house off the grid. Ain't going to happen. You're going to pay cash for everything. That's how it works. And so, it took me a couple years, finally got caught up. And like I said, I realized talking to another guy and I was writing the RV book. And I was on George Norrie, Coast to Coast, for going off the grid. He was really interested in that book. And I said, "Hey, I'm doing this RV living book. I'm writing it right now. It's pretty close to being done." He goes, "Oh, wow, that sounds really cool." And I go, "Oh, yeah." He goes, "Where'd you come up with that idea?" I go, "Oh, I do it. I've been doing it for years. I live in my RV." So I transitioned from that rental into my RV, and a small one and nothing glorious. I think I paid $9,000 for it. And so it ventured off. And next thing you know, I'm created The Simple Life. The RV book was the first book in The Simple Life. And it's gone from there. Now I just published book 4 in The Simple Life. I've published 2 other books in the Off the Grid series, one done by Mother Earth News, traditionally published, and another one called Living Off the Grid, which is the post to my book called Going Off the Grid, because that was while I was doing it. And the business evolved into this. I'm primarily an author, but I'm going into some other things. Podcast is coming in the next couple days. Getting ready to do some online courses to teach everything even further. But what I'm doing is I just put together the pieces of what I'm doing. I'm just teaching what I'm living and where I'm trying to pursue it. And everything is based on freedom.
There we go.
People would long-winded to get to freedom, but people would ask me, go, "Why are you prepping? Why are you doing all this for?" I go, "I'm not doing that." I go, "This is all about freedom. Yep. This is me living the life I want, not what I've been told, because that didn't work."
Yep. I think you would actually get along very well with Congressman Thomas Massey. I'm not sure if you're too familiar with him, but very, very similar.
I think we follow each other on Twitter. I don't use Twitter, but I think he's on there somewhere.
It's funny because Congressman Massey, this is kind of his shtick. He is easily one of the most staunch libertarian and I'll say Republican congressmen in the House. And yet he probably is single-handedly the most environmentally conscious because he pretty much has everything that he needs at his home that he has basically made himself to be off the grid, self-sufficient, from the way his water is heated, the way he's collecting the electricity, using the Tesla batteries to store it, having the food source of all of his chickens and his cows and everything he does at his home is all with the intention of trying to be off the grid for the sole fact that he's not beholden to some alternative force, be it a government or likewise. And I think we're starting to see more and more of what you're speaking to is this desire to get away from this 9 to 5, pushing papers on the desk, trying to make it through the day. Just again, like you said earlier, like running on a treadmill and never getting off. People are looking for a way to get
away from the norm. And I think, as you go to like DIY or HGTV, you're going to find all these living off the grid shows or, building in Alaska or what have you. But I think there's a really strong desire for people to explore those alternatives. And I guess, yours was kind of more along the lines of you're facing some tougher times, but it sounds like it's turned from being a not so conscious decision to go off the grid, but it's turned into something that really has really helped you get to where you are, and it helped you find yourself along the way. Because I know we talked beforehand, you mentioned you kind of found yourself more on the left side of politics, but working not only in the government, but also just like in your personal views. So kind of walk through, if you could, Gary, what was it like to see your politics transition from...
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. I was talking about your politics being more left-leaning, correct?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I misunderstood. I thought you were saying your politics were left-leaning. I'm sorry.
No. I thought I read something that you used to be more on the left side and became a libertarian. I've always been a middle of the road guy. I voted. My first vote was for Ross Perot. My first ever vote. So I've always thought of things very differently, and I've never been a big fan of two political parties. And the fact that I was on the inside, I did a lot of protection. I stood next to Anthony Weiner and listened to his idiocracy when he was a junior congressman out in front of the UN. I knew the guy was an idiot from day one because I listened to the guy talk in an informal format, and I walked away from the guy, went, there's something wrong with this guy. And I was around all these people, and left or right, it did not matter. I realized we were nothing but tools in their game. And for me, I always, I might have tended to lean a little more right because I was, law enforcement, military, but I always believed in, middle of the road. You lean a little right here, lean a little left on these issues. That's where most of us lie, right? And today we're so polarized. I actually wrote a whole chapter about political tribalism in my Decluttering Your Life book. Yeah, not decluttering your house, decluttering your life. Yep. That's the problem. And everything I teach is based upon a three-legged stool. It's about finding, and this is the tough one. I call them the elephants in the room, right? Your health. We are losing the health battle in this country, not by a little bit, by a lot, because we like to be number one. Oh, we're the most obese country in the world by far. We are totally number one, hands down on that one. We've got it. And if you take a look around, it's bad. I mean, it's almost to the point of I'm about ready to throw in towel and say we can't recover from this. We're going to bankrupt the healthcare system because people are so unhealthy. And not only that, you throw in unhealthy and unhappy. That's a recipe for disaster. And we're already seeing it with these mass shootings, even though the odds of you experiencing one, you probably have a better chance of getting struck by lightning. But it's not to throw a negative light on that or kind of brush right over it.
Right.
That's a problem. And we need to fix that.
Nobody wants to, though. I mean, honestly, and like to that point right there, I think that's a huge part that a lot of people don't seem to address is that when we're watching these mass shootings happen, I think the instinctual reaction is to go to, well, it's the guns. The guns are the bad thing. We need to just remove the guns instead of looking at, what's causing the action. I mean, you look back to not even 50 years ago, guns have always been a prevalent part of American society. Like, that's just a reality. That's what we were founded upon, even back at our founding, back in the 1700s. And to assume that just because the guns have been around, they've gotten stronger, makes them more dangerous and they're being used more frequently. I mean, that just is statistically not shown by the data. But what has been shown is that the people who are using these guns tend to be either, they're males, they tend to be white, they have no father figure in the home, and they have no sense of purpose. And they, in almost every single case, red flags are all over the place, and they're often missed. So I think you're hitting the nail on the head when it comes to there's a very fundamental lack of worth, of self-worth, but also of purpose. Of what am I doing that's providing to not only to my greater community or my family even, but to society as a whole. When people look back at the history books, what are they going to say, when they look at my name? And I think that's where we're seeing a lot of, especially in the cases of these mass shootings, these lonely white guys who have had no real father figure in their lives. They've had no structure and they've had no real guidance. They don't have that sense of self-worth and they don't have a sense of purpose. And in their minds, as they go online to the 4chans of the world and they get this group of guys online that they become friends and almost like family with, and they're getting fed this mindset that if I do this horrific thing,
I will be notarized. I will be someone that will be in the history books, and people will look up to me who also have been facing the same struggles that I have. And it's leading to this just detrimental society where we're not taking these people under our wing and trying to help them, but instead just excoriating them, saying, oh, you're basement dwellers, go do your thing. And then we, months, years later, it swelters back up where they're doing something absolutely horrific. So what do you think we can do, Gary, to help get a sense of purpose back to, not only these people who desperately need it, but just as a society where we desperately need some sense of, not, I don't say collective, but just like this mindset that we're in this together, and we have to stop demonizing one another and actually do things that are for the greater purpose just across the board for humanity.
Well, and that's why I teach the three-legged stool. So the health part, people go, what's that have to do with anything? And I tell them, first of all, everything. I go, you're ignoring the main thing in your life that you should be focusing on right now. And not only that, but it's the easiest to change. But with, big pharma, big food industry, I always say this. My famous saying is, there's no money in healthy people. I've been in there. I worked on the inside of the biggest health agency in the country. I saw it firsthand. The pharmaceutical companies, your health is so far down the list on their priorities, it's probably not even on the first 5 pages. I mean, it's off the radar. And for people today, these are all about gaining your freedom back. And I'll explain that a little more. But your health obviously directly affects your cognitive function, your mood level, your energy levels, your ability to relate to others, communication skills. It's all there. It's all there, and you need to fix your health. And I just had a little go back and forth between someone on email who was asking for me to hold their hand, and I told him no. I said, figure it out. I gave you all the information, figure it out. If he would have asked to hire me, and I've done this more than once, I would have said no. To consult, I would have said, nope, I'm not going to take your money. You need to figure it out. When you figure it out, come back, because you're asking me to do it for you. Yep. And that's what we're stuck in today. Is where we want the easy button and we want the easy pill. It doesn't exist. Health is a priority based on you and you putting in effort. I can't tell you all the intricacies of your health. I can give you a baseline of what works. You got to fine tune it from there. It's on you. You have to understand your body, and people don't even care. They're all, I don't want to know about that stuff. Why do I need to know health? Gee, I don't know. Maybe because it's your life. I just throw that one out there. And so I teach that one first. Obviously, I'm a health guy, but because it's the most important, because once you get your health in order, and I've done this, I've watched the light come on, everything else starts to come together. So then I talk about, you're getting your financial health together too. So finding financial freedom, being debt free, getting out of the system, getting out of perpetual debt. The system has been geared and designed to keep you in perpetual debt. That is how it picks at the carcass. That's how the rich get richer. That's how the government gets bigger. That's why we're here today. Yep. So you need to take that control back. The only way you can do it is to be debt free and not live on credit. And people are like, huh. And I go, trust me, I own my house. I own my truck. I own my RV. I can live off minimum wage. No problem. No problem at all. I live my life. Easy. You want to take stress out of your life? Do that. I don't worry about paying my bills. I can pay my bills no matter what. And then obviously finding your life purpose. And I always use that last, which people wonder about, but I go, you have to take this progression. I want you to be thinking about life purpose while you're making these transitions, but you need to focus on these transitions and not try to find life purpose and get all on that. It's overwhelming, right? And life purpose is how I define it is you would doing something that you would do no matter what, even if you didn't get paid. As easy as I can put it.
Yep.
Yeah. And we've lost that. I mean, we're a cubicle society, consumer economy. We have the only true consumer economy in the world, what does that mean? It means that our country is based off perpetual economic growth, which is absolutely impossible in real world circumstances. You cannot have continuous economic growth without stagnation, without it flatlining, without a little bit of a dip. That's the natural way it goes. But we are basically addicted to greed in this country, all over the world. I think we're based on a funny money system worldwide. There is no money. And it's something. Money today is backed by zero. The only reason it has value is because we say it has value, basically. And that's where we're at. And by doing these things and finding your life purpose, what happens is you take the power from the entities that have taken it from you. Humans are meant to be free. If there's one thing humans are born with inherently, it's freedom, free will. We have that. We have allowed entities and government systems to take it away from us, and we've done it willingly. So those are the three things. Once you take those back, now you've taken the big pieces of control in our society and you've given it back to yourself. And I look at money differently because people think money kind of, in our worlds, they associate it with greed all the time. I say, no. Money equals freedom. You have to look at it differently. When I go and spend money on something I don't need, I'm actually taking freedom away from myself. And I'm returning it back to the big business financial institutions. I'm giving it to them every time I do something like that. So the more money you have, or the more money you can obtain, the more potential freedom you have. The more freedom you have, the less money it takes to maintain that freedom. Make sense?
Oh, that's an interesting way to think about it.
Yeah, it's a little rhetorical. Maybe me and Socrates could get back together and have a talk about it. But it's based on principle, like I said, of freedom and returning the power back to the people. That's what I'm teaching. But I'm teaching it in a self-help way. So I think I'm being a little unique with it. And people understand once they dig into me a little bit, they go, oh, this is a self-help guy that actually does all this stuff. Oh, imagine that. That is insane to me because I follow some people and I go, this guy has no background in any of this. None of it. They're just regurgitating other information. That's all they're doing.
Yep.
I live and breathe everything I teach. And I'm not a life clairvoyant. I'm not the expert to end all experts. I'm just teaching what I have learned. That's it. Take it for what you will. And my goal in my books, because I write them short, sweet, concise, is I want you to implement what I'm teaching and teach it to other people. That's the only way we're going to change this, micro to macro. And people get in these long, heated debates about the government and how we need to change it. I hate to tell people that 800-pound gorilla's out of the cage and it ain't coming back. We're not getting that gorilla back in with a 50 caliber. It's out.
Well, yeah.
The only way you can do it is you have to take personal responsibility for the things you are doing that are inhibiting your freedom.
Gary Collins from The Simple Life. Welcome back to the Brian Nichols Show.
Thanks for having me on, Brian. Well, I hope they like me. Otherwise, it makes life very difficult if everyone hates you. That's not a good thing.
Gary, you
some hate mixed in there to know you're doing okay, but a lot of hate. I don't do that.
Gary, you've been one of the most requested guests to return back to the Brian Nichols Show. So I think that says something. The audience does, in fact, love you. In fact, Gary, they must adore you because whenever I have you on the show, not only do the numbers always seem to skyrocket, but also folks always reach out to me and say, I really, really, really like that conversation with Gary. So naturally, life's still weird since we last spoke. COVID's still happening. The world's still kind of on this weird big pause. How's life? What's been going on since you and I last connected?
It's pretty much the same. Same old. I built this house and my lifestyle to be able to deal with the kind of any crazy events. And I'm not a prepper. I'm not a survivalist. I don't categorize. Do I have those skills? Yeah, some of them, but they're just life skills is what I call them. Knowing how to cook, that's just a life skill. But yeah, it's interesting. In my little town, there's really no cases. I think there's been a couple, and those were months ago. People wear masks. I'm in a unique area because parts in Washington, parts in Idaho, there's different rules. But I talked to someone in Montana yesterday, and they said Montana's flaring up because everyone from surrounding states is coming in trying to move there right now, and they're bringing all the COVID in.
Right.
So it's, but for me, I'm up in the mountains. I wear a mask 24/7 because I'm woke. I'm a woke person. But no, it's ridiculous. I don't even know what to think anymore. I go into Spokane, which is the nearest big city to me, once a week usually. And the last couple of weeks, I've seen numerous people walking the streets and riding their bikes with masks on. It's bizarre. We know zero about health in this country. And that's why we have the worst cases is part of it.
Can I ask you a question? I have a question for you because you're actually, you didn't mean to, but you're kind of stumbling into an area that I've actually been thinking about. And now that we're talking, I think who better to talk about this than with you? So for folks who haven't had the chance to listen to your past episodes, you worked in the government, specifically in the health sector, if you will, focusing on health and wellness from a regulatory standpoint. So you've been able to see not only, how the sausage is made, but you've been, in the upper echelons, being able to look down and seeing the actual ramifications. So I look at our public today, Gary, and I guess to what you just stated, our average person doesn't really know health. And I think that's so apparent. You look, our obesity numbers are through the roof in America. We are leading the world in obesity related illnesses, heart disease, strokes, cancers, you go down the list. And we seem to be, number one, which America is always number one, but this is the categories you don't actually want to be number one in. And yet now we have COVID, right? COVID-19's around, and I see everybody on Facebook, on Twitter, acting as if they have all received their 7 to 8 year medical licenses, and they all know exactly what is definitively, true, what is definitively false, and they will tell you to make sure, under no uncertain circumstances, you are wrong if they think that your opinion is at all invalid. So where's the disconnect, Gary? We see people who I guess they pretend to be, educated on health and wellness, and yet when we look at the actual, the actual numbers, right? And you being someone who worked in the industry, you get to see it firsthand. It's not the case. Where's that disconnect coming from?
Yeah. And for me, it's a little interesting because I've been in athletics and health for over 4 decades. And at the end, I was a special agent for the FDA and U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, which was an eye-opening to the whole medical industry, food industry, and drug industry of the United States. And what it made me realize is it's a total sham. The whole thing, it's just bullshit. That's what it is. And we've been duped. And I have that famous saying that I've said numerous times, there's no money in healthy people. We spend the most money by far of any developed country. But we are the most unhealthiest by leaps and bounds over any industrialized country.
Right.
And China's number 2. Which is an interesting one because a large part of China's population lives in basically huts and rice paddies. I mean, honestly, I'm not being a jerk. There's large parts of China that are third world.
Oh, literally third world, yeah.
Yeah, and we're beating them. I mean, we're doing this wrong. We're not even doing it wrong. We're doing it very wrong. The biggest disconnect for me today, there's a couple. It's not complicated, but how we got here is a little bit because it's first is the lack of, and as libertarians, right? I'm now part of the libertarian movement, and I've thrown my hat in. We talked about that.
Welcome.
But I will leave it happy. That's the way I am. But I'm in. I think this is the time. And I didn't join just because it's good and belong. I just realized I had to pick a side. I'm not a side guy, but this is the time to say enough's enough. But part of it is the lack of self-responsibility. We have been coddled in this country. We play victimhood. It's not my fault. Someone else needs to hold my hand. Someone else needs to take care of me. And when it comes to health, it is absolutely 100% on you. It's your health. It's your body. You better take care of it. Now, obviously, we need doctors and a medical system because things go wrong. That's the way it is. I have dogs. My dogs have to go to the vet. Stuff goes wrong. We're organisms. We're animals. That's what happens. So, but to use, to wait for everyone else to fix our problems in health is just, that's part of our bigger problem of not being self-reliant, not taking responsibility for our own actions. The second part is the food, drug industry and health industry. Like I said, they know it's a moneymaker. And Matt Kibbe talked about this today, that the problem is that they know that to keep us on the wheel is how everyone becomes rich. I mean, think about our health industry in general, especially our medical industry and the drug companies. They have their number one responsibility is to shareholders. Number one. Well, doesn't anyone see that as being a problem right out of the gate? And not only is it their number one obligation, it's a legal obligation because they have a fiduciary responsibility to their shareholders. That's it. That is number one. Until we get that out of the health and health industry in general, it's always going to be a money-making operation. It's going to put profit above everything else, no matter what. So it kind of creates a perfect storm a little bit there. But we've seen it even, back, 100 and 150 years ago in the 1800s of the snake oil salesman. He used to come around and basically get you hooked on cocaine and opium. Sure, it made you feel good for the first month. Then you were an addict and then you died. So it's kind of it's not like it's new. It's just today. It's just, it's run amok.
Gary, what do we need to do to wake people up that we can't keep doing the same thing? We can't keep smashing our head against the wall and expecting a different result.
Well, and we've talked about the three-legged stool, right? That's why I created it. Part of it was because I had to kind of filter down the basics of what I teach in the Simple Life concept. Once I boiled it down, I also kind of realized that those were the three primary things that we were giving away to government and big business, which are our individual freedoms, our health, our financial freedom, and our life purpose. We're willingly giving these away. And the way what you do is you take those back. Once you take them back, and health is the biggest one, it's the elephant in the room, literally today, that you take that back, you now have control. Now your life starts to take on a different direction, right? Because now you're in control. You don't have those worries. A lot of people today, they're afraid of taking chances. That's what I've noticed. They're afraid to look at something that may be considered fringe. Even though I say, I'm so normal, I'm considered crazy today. It's bizarre. Normal behavior and being a normal, free human being today is actually looked down upon.
I mean, Gary, really quick. I mean, you said people don't want to take chances. People right now, literally, and I'm not trying to poke fun at coronavirus, but like, because I have friends and family who are either they've had coronavirus or they know somebody who has, or they themselves are terrified of it. But we have a population of people who, and I saw this horrifying statistic. It was like, out of your average American, they think that over 20% of the nation has gotten coronavirus and 5% has died. I think it's 5% or 9% have perished. The numbers aren't even in the ballpark. It's like, it's less than 0.1% or something like that. It's some ridiculous number, but we have been we've been so conditioned to feel that if you were to go outside, you're going to get the coronavirus and you're going to contaminate your entire family. And it's like, we have to live. Like you go out into a car every single day, you have a chance you're getting in a car accident and die, but you make that choice. And it is a calculated choice. The same thing is true for life. But yes, Gary, to your point, people aren't making choices anymore because they're afraid, it seems, to make a choice, because then it makes you actually make a definitive yes or no statement on something in your life.
Well, yeah, and everything in life, like you said, is a chance. There's a chance that things could go wrong every single day. And I'm not saying that the coronavirus is something just to blow off, but statistically, anyone and that's part of the problem too, is we've lost rational thought, right? We've become very tribalistic in our politics, and we're picking sides and drawing our line in the sand. Say, if you don't believe in what I believe in, you're wrong. If you don't wear a mask, you just want to kill grandma. I mean, it's always this sensational kind of, virtue signaling. And not only that, but almost shaming every time. If you don't believe in what I believe in, you're just wrong. And I think that's what a big part of this coronavirus, and it's a perfect storm, right? We hit election cycle, political divisiveness, and it's just all of it snowballing into one. And I was talking to a friend yesterday, and he said he hasn't worn a mask once, and he gets looks, and he goes, "Hey man, I'm 35, I'm healthy." He's all, "I'm just over it. I'm over it." And it's a tricky bag, because you're all, okay, we can't continue to live this way. If this continues on and this is the new norm, this is misery. If you're telling me every time I get on a plane, I have to wear a mask, if we take this attitude, we wouldn't be here today, because Lewis and Clark would have never gone on their scouting mission across the country. I mean, honestly, we wouldn't even be here if we keep this. We're going nowhere. It's going to stifle You're going to have innovation stifled. People are going to be miserable. And it comes to a point, if we were taking care of our health and we were healthy, this would be almost a zero issue, right? Because the statistics say this. The people who are dying from the coronavirus are almost all obese with multiple health conditions and or elderly in a certain age category. And the problem today is, obviously, if you're obese and elderly, as you age, your immune system starts to down-regulate. It's not as strong. That's part of it, part of aging. So that's what I mean. You're throwing all these pieces in, and all the people I know who are healthy, they don't care. They're like, cough in my face. I don't care. And I think it comes to that attitude. I told a friend when this first started happening, and I was right. I mean, I'm not patting myself on the back, but I talked to a friend, then I did an interview right after. And the host asked me, he goes, what do you think is going to happen with this coronavirus thing? I go, you're about to see the most massive redistribution of wealth you've ever seen. And guess what we've done? Exactly that. I said, you're going to see the government start shoveling money out left and right. There's going to be no controls on it. No one's going to know where it's going. And it's going to make millionaires and billionaires out of schmucks, out of people who are just a part of crony capitalism and part of the system. And that's exactly what it's done. Because what have we done? It's put all the mom and pops out of business, and it's made all of the big corporations richer. And now they truly, they dominate the markets. Amazon, Walmart, they grew. And now, that's what I mean, we're in a strange place. But if that three-legged stool, if we were all taking care of that and doing that, it removes the power from these entities to be able to do this to us. Because if we're financially sound, debt-free, financial institutions don't really exist all that much. We borrow until we're eyeballs up in debt, and most Americans, almost all Americans, die in debt, period. Well, that's no way to live your life. Americans die incredibly unhealthy. The last 20, 30 years of their life are on 3 medications or more, and they don't feel good, and they're in and out of hospitals. Most people lack life purpose. The statistics bear this out on most people's deathbeds. They have multiple regrets of that they didn't live the life they wanted to live. We got to change that. If we change those 3 things, it will drastically change the direction of us as a country and change our government. It will change the big business attitude. It will just change everything. And that's why I'm such a big fan of us being the innovators, right? We're the people who pay all the bills. Well, we need to be the innovators. We need to create the next tech company. We need to be, like Parler's trying to do that. Create a social media platform that actually is free. We need to create the next Apple. We need to create the next Microsoft and do good with it. Because what we're seeing today is a lot of these companies are not doing better for mankind. Do they provide services that help us? Sure. But that's a small fraction of what they could do to make this a better place. Instead, they took this situation and decided it was time to just become a pure monopoly. Fix yourself, fix your community, fix your family, move it on. Just keep moving it. And as you fix everything around you, it has this effect, I hate to use this example. It's like a virus. It spreads. It starts to spread out. And I think that's what we've lost. Just 150 years ago, almost everyone was a farmer.
Mm-hmm. My family too. Yeah, now, no, my family are farmers. It's amazing to see because like all the families up in my home area, like they were all farming families. And it's funny, even I think back, Gary, just, back in the 90s, right? I remember you'd have multiple family names. In my family, we would do cropping for different families as like a custom hire business, and we'd go out and plant their corn and mow hay and stuff. And you'd have dozens and dozens of local families. And now, Gary, here we are in 2020. I think there's like 4 or 5 families that are left up there that are farming. That's it.
Well, And understanding that microeconomy and macroeconomy, right? The microeconomy, the way it stays strong and works the best way is by small business, which is the backbone of this country. This is how this country, the whole economy was built. Don't get me wrong. We had our Rockefellers and, our Morgan Chases and all that. Don't get me wrong. It's not like it's new. It's been around. But with the local small economies, I always give this example too of the money stays local. If you continue to shop at that big store in your small community or shop online at this big store that sells, has 100, or 1 million SKUs or whatever, that money goes out and it never comes back. When you support your community and you start small businesses and you buy from small businesses in your community, the money stays in that community. It builds the tax base. You're able to fix the roads. You're able to, clean up your city. You're able to, build bridges, fix bridges, infrastructure. You're able to do that. The problem now is all of our money goes two places: big business and the federal government, and state governments too. Our state governments are following the exact same direction of the federal government in a lot of cases. It's just as corrupt, right? And matter of fact, I'm going to have a guest on, a PhD psychologist who I'm a friend with, and we're going to talk about the interrelation between a sociopath, psychopath, and criminals and politicians. We're going to talk about that because I think there's a big disconnect too with our politicians. They're broken. The system's broken. No one wants to be a politician today. No one with a rational mind, right? So it attracts the worst of the worst right out of the gate. Look at Thomas Massey, probably the nicest guy in the world. That's the guy you want as president. He never has a snowball's chance in hell of being president. Those are the rational minds, the Ron Pauls. They're never going to make it. Never. It ain't going to happen because the system is inherently corrupt and it goes from the top down. So that's why I say the way you fix it is bottom up. You just take it from the bottom and you just slowly push them out.
Gary Collins, welcome back to the Brian Nichols Show. How are you?
Good. Thanks, Brian. It was a good chat beforehand.
Oh, yeah, we get talking, and then we look at the clock, and we're like, we've been talking for 10 minutes.
We should have recorded that. That was brilliant.
Yeah, we didn't hit the record button, that's what happens here in the greater podcasting world, because I think we've all started to realize this. You become very good friends off air, and then as soon as you start talking, the conversations just start going. You're like, oh, shit, we missed the record button, and then you have 10 minutes of content. But it was really, truly just us catching up, and it ended up being a conversation, and I teased this before we even hit the record button, of transformation. And that was something I wanted to be the theme today, because for the longtime listener, they've heard you on the show back. I think the last time you were on is actually the beginning of 2020. And, it was beginning of 2021, and now I'm second guessing myself. End of 2020, beginning of 2021, we'll have all of our awesome audience double check. But with that being said, when you were last on, Gary, the world has changed a little bit, shall we say, and it's forced a lot of people to take a step back and really have to recalibrate where they are, where they want to go, and truly what have they done to help themselves get there. And that's why I wanted to focus on transformation today, because it all comes down to who you are as an individual, and if you are truly even in the balance that is your three-legged stool. I teased this on yesterday's episode for the audience, but I said, hey, we're going to have Gary back on. And for those of the folks who are either new to the show or maybe they just need a refresher, this will be a great chance to refresh them on the three-legged stool. But Gary, before we get there, I put the cart far ahead of the horse here. Let's rewind, because again, the show has been growing left and right since you were last on. Let's reintroduce yourself to the Brian Nichols Show audience and what's been going on in the world of Gary Collins and the simple life.
Yeah, just a simple, dumb redneck who grew up in the middle of nowhere, who made something out of himself, put himself through college, worked for the government for 20 years in military intelligence and as a federal agent, left dismayed and absolutely dumbfounded by humanity and people in government, and started my own business, rebuilt myself from scratch, and completely just started anew and created a business called The Simple Life, but built the house off the grid on 20 acres, which eventually turned into 50 acres. And then I sold it. I recently sold it after having that property about a decade in August, and rebooted my entire life. Washington got crazy weird during COVID. And I said, I'm out of here. Even though I was on the northeast side, literally almost in Idaho, right on the border, it just got strange and property prices went just bazonkers. And I went, I'm an idiot if I don't try and sell right now. And I'd bought a property in Arizona prior COVID and got a good deal on 20 acres and built in my new studio office here that I built, and luckily had a place to go and just restarted my life again, just pivoted and rebooted everything all over. But if it wasn't for living the three-legged stool that I teach, which is pretty odd that people live what they teach these days, I couldn't have done it. I mean, I pivoted within probably 60 days by the time I decided to sell the house, got back up there, got it prepped, got it on the market. It sold in 3 days and escrow closed in about 30. So I was scrambling because I hadn't intended to move. So I had to pack all my stuff, sell all my crap again, because I hate moving crap. To move all that stuff is pointless. Furniture and all that, I just get rid of it. And it's been nuts ever since. Yeah, and building my fourth house. This is the fourth house I've had built from scratch. And I will say, maybe we can get into this. I will never do it again. Never do it again.
We'll definitely dig into that.
The workforce is absolutely dog shit today.
Oh, well, there you go. So never do it again. I hear that. And actually, it's funny. I was just having this conversation with, so my wife and I are also moving. And this is also why the conversation of transformation came up today, because I'm seeing, our mutual friend, Mark Claire, he just went on an entire journey from California down to Mexico. So we're seeing this across the greater, I would dare say, let's just kind of give us the general theme of the liberty world, right? People are currently in this big state of flux. Me from Philadelphia, like you, it got weird here in Philly, moving from here to Indiana, you getting out of Washington down to Arizona. We're seeing this across the board. And I think it speaks to why we needed to start changing the conversation back when you and I really focused on changing the conversation, focusing on bettering the individual. And this is something when you joined the liberty movement really and trying to ingrain a little bit into, not only who we had as our network, but also the people, like the underlying themes. And this is something why I've kind of branched out as well. I talk more to the sales, marketing, entrepreneur crowd, because I think we're seeing that at the end of the day, what's going to win, Gary, is you have to be the best version of yourself, regardless of what you want to do, what your vision is. Because I was talking to the termite guy, like you see around, there is such a lack of motivation. And I think a lot of it has been exacerbated by this, not just COVID, but the government responses to COVID. And this is where we're seeing the movement kind of split right now. You have one side of the movement who is in this very strongly focused personal development mentality of making yourself the best version of yourself, which I agree with. And then there's the other side of the movement who is saying we need to focus on policy, specifically local state elections, and focus on that like exclusively all over everything else. And I agree with some of those ideas. And I'm at this point where I'm thinking, can we please do both? Because the whole reason that you had to move, the whole reason I am looking to move, the whole reason Mark was moving is because of what the policies were happening around us. Now, thankfully, we had the means to move, but it speaks to, I think, why we have to play both games. We can't have it be one or another, because for every Gary, Mark, or Brian who can make the trip or make the move, there's somebody else out there who they're stuck. They physically have no means for whatever purpose that may be to make the transition, but government policies are changing around them, whether they like it or not, and they're going to be hurt negatively. We're seeing this in Australia. We're seeing it in Austria, Germany. Goodness, did we expect to see Germany going so quickly back to 1930s again, Gary? What is happening there? But dig into that, Gary, the importance of maybe, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on that, of bridging both those worlds together.
Well, and I've always said, life's about action. And we have too many talkers today. A lot of people with social media, with 24/7 news cycle, everyone loves to talk and chat and talk about things they have no idea what they're talking about. Even journalists. I love listening to people, the talking heads on news shows, and I look in their background and they have no background in anything. They're just talkers, regurgitators. That's where we've come, is people just go out and they regurgitate and then they go play video games and watch the Kardashians for the rest of the day and play on their smartphone. Those are the people getting their ass handed to them because they don't understand that by sitting around watching the world go round and not doing, that is going to inhibit your ability to do the things you want. As far as when things go bad, when things are good, you're like, hey, everything's great. I get to live in my 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath house in the hills that I can afford right now. Well, when things go bad, then you can't afford it. Then you're stuck. Now you can't move because you're upside down. And I always tell people the 3-legged stool, optimal health, financial freedom by being debt free, find your life purpose. You do those things, you can do anything you want. And that's what we were able to do. I'm debt free. I didn't have any inhibition. I just left. I sold my place and I left. And because I control my income too. But the reason I can do these things is because I do things. That's the point. I don't sit around talking all the time, telling people what they should do and don't do it myself. What people learned by this transition, I got a lot of emails once I announced what I was doing because I kind of kept it quiet until it all went through. And they're like, holy cow, that was fast. And I go, yeah, I saw the writing on the wall. And as I was leaving Washington, I had to go to Home Depot before I left in Spokane. All the major tools and expensive items were all locked up. That's when I realized, I went, wow.
It's time.
No, I'd already sold. I was just going there to grab a couple things I needed to as I was leaving. And I was like, wow. And I left California 10 years ago because I saw the writing on the wall in California. I was born and raised there, but I was born and raised in a tiny, poor town. But I was living in San Diego and I could see where everything was going. I went, I'm out of here. This place is buffoonery. And so, but I was able to do those things because I downsized and got rid of everything, which I wrote about in my book called Going Off the Grid. But I think more people need to take responsibility. And we talk about that all the time about being self-reliant. Don't be a victim. You're never going to have the crappiest life in the world. You're never going to rank number one, even though you think you do. Stop being that way. Stop complaining. Put your head down, work hard, get your crap together, and everything will work out. And when it doesn't work out, you have the ability to fix it. That's the key. And today we just have a lot of victims. A lot of people are poor me. I'm entitled. I shouldn't have to work. And the problem today, what's really got me is the unskilled labor market. And they literally think they deserve $25 an hour. And I'm all, I started at $3.35 an hour. You want the same wage in 1 hour that it would take me a full day of busting my ass to make. You want to make it in an hour. And you're unskilled. You're terrible at what you do. You don't even show up on time. And we got to get out of that mindset because I think it's crushing this country. I really do.
You're actually very similar in terms of the approach you have to a friend of the show, Jason Stapleton. Now Jason, he started his show. It was the Jason Stapleton program, and it was entirely focused on politics. And about, I'd say this time last year, he kind of went through this rebranding and he turned it into Wealth, Power, and Influence with Jason Stapleton. And the real focus of the show shifted from being about politics to wealth, how you accumulate it, and then how you can use it to not only help promote your ideals, but also to really be financially secure. And that's really just my time listening to Jason to hear that kind of transition and to hear very similar echoing back and forth between both yourself and what Jason's promoting at his show is really, it comes down to the same thing: personal responsibility, getting your life in order, your health, and then going to financial freedom, whether it's trying to make more money, make yourself the most, indispensable person at your company or what have you, and then finding that purpose. I mean, it's very similar to the message that Jason's promoting, but you're doing it much more from, I think, the individualistic standpoint and just the small, tiny things we can do on a day-to-day basis that then turn to big things. I for myself, I used to weigh 385 pounds. I was huge. And I went through pretty much an entire, life change where I ended up dropping, 180 pounds just because I realized that I was unhealthy and I knew I wasn't on a path to, positivity just in general. Like I was going to be short living my really hopefully long and happy life because my heart was going to give out. So like things like that. And once you get your health in order, I think that's the most important pillar you mentioned, is because once you get your health in order, it does open up so many more doors and so many more avenues that you can explore, be it the physical aspect, but also the truly, it does coincide with financial aspect. And I know it sounds a little, cliche to say, but people do judge. And that's just one of the realities of our world is, when you're a heavier set person or you're not in that kind of status quo of what we consider to be a healthy looking person, you might not have the opportunities that other people would have. So you are putting yourself at a distinct advantage when you're taking your health into consideration, because it does allow you to do more things, be it applying for different jobs that require that face-to-face connection that somebody of larger stature wouldn't be able to necessarily do as well, not because they couldn't do the job, but because the perception of them from the other side of the table isn't as positive. So I think just when we get to the realities of how our world works, what you've lined up being the health, financial freedom, and finding life's purpose, those not only are super important for an individual to be successful, but I mean, I know for myself, just kind of walking through them in my own mind, I can kind of see, how I've taken that path to, getting health better, trying to get your finances in order, and then trying to find out what you like to do. What would you do, like you said, that you would do for free, regardless if you were, getting paid or not? Like that's something I think we all need to try and figure out. So I guess because we're already getting short in time, which kind of caught me off guard because we're already at 35 minutes. But what would you say, Gary, to someone out there who just, they're listless and they're looking for that spark to kind of give them a little bit of energy and just rejuvenate their life, kind of get them back on track? What would be a good starting step for them to find themselves and hopefully get their lives turned around?
Sure. And first of Jason Stapleton, I need to have a talk with him because I think he's been stealing all my material. I'm joking. I did. It's funny though. You're right. We have found similar paths. Jason focuses more on the business side. And he's great at it. And mm-hmm. I listen to his show as well. And I know he reads all my books. Kidding. But no, it's interesting to see that two people, we both have military backgrounds. He worked I think he worked in prisons for a while too. Yep. And it's interesting. I'm more of a little more of a holistic guy, cause I do have an extensive health background. I have an extensive, I live off grid. I've lived in my RV. I run my business remotely. I've run it out of my RV. I've written many of my books in my RV. So yeah, we're a little different. But I look at us as a team. I don't look at Jason as mm-hmm. competition or anyone like that. I look at it as we're all trying to do the same thing.
100%.
And that's what we need to do. It's not going to be one of us that's going to do it. It's going to be many of us who do this.
Has to be, honestly, right?
Has to be. We got to get rid of that, competition mentality in it. And I'm very competitive. When I played sports, I didn't want to beat you. I wanted you to quit the game and never, ever play it again. That's how competitive I was. So it's been a metamorphosis for me too, of understanding that we're in this together. I run a business, but it's a business of passion. It's a business of change. So it changes how you look at, competitors and other people. I look at them as friends. I look at them as co-conspirators in a way. We're all trying to put our pinch of positive in the positive change pie is what we're doing. It's a big pie. There's plenty of pie for all of us. If I was going to give people a starting block, it is health. And here's why. I wrote an entire chapter in my new book, which is called The Simple Guide to Financial Freedom. And it's a different book. I like to write things a little differently. It is not based on investing. I look at all of our personal decisions with money that we make through our life, that the system is set up, and how it takes a piece of us each step of the way. And it's just a chunk here, a chunk there. And what it does is it gets us on this road of debt. The whole thing is to get you in debt, right? Well, health's a big part of it. And most people kind of gloss right over that one. I go, it's much, much cheaper to be healthy. And here's how. And because the argument I always get with clients is, oh, I can't afford that healthy food. It's just so expensive. This and that. No, I've ran a cost analysis with them and I prove them wrong every single time. I've never lost this bet. I go, here's our bet. You go drive to your favorite fast food restaurant. I'm going to go home because I already have my food. It's already in the refrigerator. It's already there. I've already bought it for the week. I'm going to prepare a 100% organic, healthy meal. And you go get your food, pay for it, tell me how long it takes you to get there, how much gas you spent, get home, and then we're going to compare notes on whose meal was more expensive and whose took more time. All my dishes done, everything. I've won every bet. I've never lost that bet. And even people who go to McDonald's, I go, nope, it's still cheaper. And not only monetarily is it cheaper in that short piece, the overall length of your health, you're going to more likely live longer. I can't say that with 100% certainty, but statistically, you will live longer and you will live healthier. You will have better years. It's no good to live to 80 if the last 25 years of your life were pooping in a diaper and taking 5 prescription drugs to try and stop the pooping in the diaper, which it inherently makes worse, right?
Right.
I laugh. I say every prescription, 2 side effects are you either go blind or poop your pants or both. It seems like, it seems like there's something always in there. And for that to change health, it's something that you can do right now. Like literally you can go into your kitchen, prepare a better meal, start getting rid of the bad food you have. You can start this second. It's on you and you can change it right now. Now, the initial cost to get rid of your crappy food and to buy new food, there's a little cost associated with that, but it's not like thousands of dollars, a couple $100 bucks, and you're going to get that money back. And I always tell people too, I go, here's the thing. I may not be the smartest guy in the world, but I'm a healthy guy and I'll outwork you every day of the week. I'm up at 5:30 every morning. I get it on. I get to work. I work out. I get through my day. Heck, I've published 4 books already this year. This is my year of, I dedicated to 1 year of working on the company without any vacations, breaks or anything. And that's an interesting one for a guy in the simple life too, because people go, that doesn't sound very simple. And
right.
I love what I do. This isn't as painful as you would think it to be. I'm not going to do it again, but it's not nearly as bad as if you told me, Gary, you got to work 9 to 5 in a cubicle, punching widgets or, doing, reports every day. That would be a slow death for me.
It's been so long since you've done it that you completely forgot what they're called.
I don't even, if you sat me in a cubicle, I wouldn't even know what to do. I'd be like, I don't know. I'd probably pass out and you'd have to come resuscitate me. But you know what I mean? The health part is essential. The only reason I give a lot of the, I guess, credit to what I'm doing and how I've been able to progress in my business and my model in my life to my health. Without my health, this would not be possible. I would not be here today, hands down, undeniably. And people go, well, Gary, I have health conditions. Do you? Let's take a deeper look at this. Are those health conditions, are you going to tell me you have type 2 diabetes? Because that's lifestyle. That's not genetic. And they go, what do you mean? I go, type 1 is genetic. Type 2 is not. And they're all, like you just deflated their balloon.
That's the excuse balloon. Yeah.
It's the excuse balloon, and health is the best one. You will hear some of the most ridiculous excuses you've ever heard if you work with clients one-on-one. I've heard them all. And so with that, I tell people, stop the excuses and get a plan in action. I wrote a health book. I've written a couple. They're very basic. And people go, well, it can't be that easy. I go, actually, it is. I'm an enemy of the health world because I teach you how to be healthy without making people rich. That's the key. Getting healthy does not cost a lot of money. What it does is it takes dedication and a different focus of life.
All right, folks. Thank you for sharing these great, just awesome memories that we had with Gary. Definitely some words of wisdom here on today's episode. And these are just some of my favorite times that I got to hang out with Gary. And, I really wish we had all of our conversations recording. Just because, wow, we had some fun talks. Gary was one of a kind, truly a remarkable human being, and I'm going to miss him. I'm going to miss him a lot. So thank you for joining us today and remembering our good friend here, Gary Collins. And please do me a favor. If you got some value from what Gary brought to the world, please do me a favor, and that's share some of Gary's work, share your stories with Gary, the things you found most valuable from Gary. That's how we can most effectively, appropriately, and respectfully honor his memory, I believe, is keeping alive the things he taught. So thank you for sticking around for this, rather long episode of the Brian Nichols Show. I know you're not used to these longer episodes, but I thought it was important for us to share a lot of these good times, laughs, but also very important values and messages that Gary brought to our audience here. And I hope you got some value again if you're new here in the program from today's conversations that we had with Gary Collins. So I'm going to wrap up here, and really quick as we do go towards the end of today's episode, I want to give a quick shout out to one of our awesome new sponsors. And by the way, if you're running for office, I cannot recommend this sponsor enough. And this also goes for anyone who's out there in the world of entrepreneurship. If you're running your own business and you're looking for a little help in the digital landscape, then today's sponsor is for you, and that is Right Strategies. The reason being, so Right Strategies has a proven track record of focusing not just in the world of political campaigns, but also helping small businesses in our digital landscape here in 2022. So if you're looking to help with winning your elections, or if you're looking for help in growing your business using smart, strategic digital marketing, Right Strategy is going to be a perfect partner to help you reach your goals. They have an amazing team of experts that are going to help you save time, money, but also do so while helping amplify your message. And it's going to help you win your elections, but also help you win in the marketplace. Great SMS texting features from Right Strategies gives you a really efficient, affordable, and smart way to focus your marketing budget, and it will help you reach thousands of customers and voters. Right Strategies will help you make a powerful impact on the outcome of your elections and your business growth. From social media management to awesome graphic design work to marketing your product or campaign, Right Strategies can put together a plan that makes sense for your goals and do so within your budget. So, you want to learn more about how Right Strategies can help you win your elections and grow your business? Well, if so, head to briannicholsshow.com/RS. And oh, by the way, you'll go ahead and get your free campaign or free marketing plan report card by heading over to briannicholsshow.com/RS. All you have to do is let Morgan and the awesome team at Right Strategies know that I sent you. So one more time, it's briannicholsshow.com/RS, amplifying your message where voters and customers spend their time. All right, folks, that's all I have for you. So tomorrow, I promise, we're going to pick things up tomorrow. It's going to be a much more uplifting and fun episode as we're going to be joined by Connor Boyack. I'm really looking forward to that conversation. Make sure you've hit the subscribe button in your podcast catcher so you're not missing all 5 episodes we have here every single week. Also, did you know that we are over on YouTube, on Odyssey, and now officially over on Rumble? So if you head over to one of those 3 respective platforms, search for The Brian Nichols Show. Do me a solid, go ahead, hit that subscribe button there as well, but also make sure you hit that little notification bell so you're not missing a single time we have a new video drop there. And then also, folks, one final ask. If you are getting value here from The Brian Nichols Show, having on guests that leave you educated, enlightened, and informed, I'm going to ask you to do me a favor. Head to briannicholsshow.com/support. And if you'd be so kind, give us either a 5, 10, 20, 30, I don't care, whatever it may be, dollar donation over on PayPal. Or you can go ahead and become a supporting listener, $5 a month. That's less than a cup of coffee with a shot of espresso, peppermint, and a little bit of cream at your favorite cafe, which is usually my go-to drink of choice. It comes to around like $5.82 or so. So if you're able to go ahead and sacrifice maybe one drink at the coffee shop a week to support the Brian Nichols Show, I would greatly appreciate it. So again, head to briannicholsshow.com/support to go ahead and do that. But other than that, guys, again, thank you for joining us on today's episode. It's Brian Nichols signing off here on The Brian Nichols Show for our dear friend Gary Collins. We'll see you tomorrow.
Thanks for listening to The Brian Nichols Show. Find more episodes at briannicholsshow.com.
Enjoying the audio version of the show? Then you'll love our YouTube channel. Be sure to head over there and subscribe. And if you're new to The Brian Nichols Show, be sure to head to your favorite podcast catcher and click download all unplayed episodes so you don't miss one of our nearly 500 episodes that will be sure to leave you educated, enlightened, and informed. If you got value from today's episode, can you do me a favor and head to briannicholsshow.com/support and leave us a $5 donation? And by the way, have you given the show a 5-star review yet? If not, head to Apple Podcasts and tell folks why you listen to the program, and don't forget to tell your friends to subscribe too. Follow me on social media at @BNicholsLiberty. And again, if you'd be so kind, please consider making a donation to The Brian Nichols Show at briannicholsshow.com/support. The Brian Nichols Show is supported by viewers like you. Thank you to our patrons, Daryl Schmitz, Michael Lima, Mitchell Mankiewicz, Cody Johns, Craig DaCosta, and the We Are Libertarians Network.